everybody, Happy New Year and welcome to the first Employment Insights podcast 2024. My name is Rebecca Kearney and I'm a Principal Associate in the Employment team based in Liverpool. I'm joined today by my colleague Alice Evans, who's a trainee solicitor based in our Leeds office. Hello Alice, and thank you for joining us.
Hi Rebecca.
Hi. So today we are going to do a quick roundup of the key takeaways from 2023 and what to expect from the year ahead. So Alice, what topics are we going to be covering today?
So today we're going to have a little look at agency workers, also flexible working, the Equality Act, Employment Rights Act, and also a little bit of holiday pay as well.
Okay, great. So starting with agency workers, what have we seen in 2023?
So during 2023, the government amended legislation to allow employers to utilise agency workers during periods of industrial action. This was challenged in R versus Secretary of State for Business and Trade, and the High Court ruled that it was unlawful for the government without consultation to have revoked the legislation, which initially prevented workers on strike being replaced by agency workers. The revocation was challenged by trade unions on the grounds that, one, the Secretary of State had failed to comply with their statutory duty to consult before making the regulations, and two, that the Secretary of State breached their duty under Article 11 of the European Convention on Human Rights to prevent unlawful interference with the rights of trade unions and their members. And that was successful on the basis of ground one, but the High Court didn't express a view on ground two there. And this meant that much more consideration for employees had to be taken on how to deal with staff shortages during strikes. And obviously strikes were a big thing during 2023, so an important piece of legislation to be aware of there.
Yeah, absolutely. And a 180 on the law there as well. Thanks, Alice. Okay, so you also mentioned some changes to flexible working. So can you talk us through what's expected?
Yeah, so a recent one here, on the 12th of December 2023, Parliament voted on the Flexible Working Amendment Regulations. This made flexible working requests a day one right, rather than requiring 26-week service. So employees could make flexible working requests from day one. This will come into effect for any requests made on or after the 6th of April 2024. So will be quite a big thing in the upcoming new year, and will mean a change in internal policies and procedures for many employers. Further legislation is awaited for the provisions of the Employment Relations Flexible Working Act 2023, which received royal assent in July 2023. And this includes the entitlement to make 2 requests in any 12-month period, rather than the one that it currently stands at.
Okay, thank you. So what was this about Equality Act amendments as well?
Yeah, so another important thing from 2023 that we've picked up on here. In 2023, the government published draft legislation to amend the Equality Act 2010 with effect from the 1st of Jan 2024. So the Equality Act amendment regulations codify certain EU-derived discrimination protections, which would otherwise have disappeared at the end of 2023 due to the Brexit agreement. So a notable amendments here include confirmation that employment discrimination on grounds of breastfeeding falls under the protected characteristics of sex. Also, an amendment to guidance on the definition of disability to state that consideration of a person's ability to participate fully and effectively in working life on an equal basis with other workers is relevant when looking at day-to-day activities. Also, finally, the right to claim indirect discrimination by association. So this will cover a person who does not hold the relevant protected characteristic, but suffers the same disadvantage at the hands of the employer's provision, criterion or practice as those who do have that characteristic.
Okay, that's really interesting, thank you. So I also understand that the changes to the Employment Rights Amendment, Revocation and Transitional Provision regulations have now come into force. Is that right?
Yeah, Rebecca, that's right. So in November 2023, the government published a draft statutory instrument which contained amendments to the law on holiday pay, 2P and also working time. So the proposed changes which have now come into force on the 1st of Jan 2024 were one, simplifying holiday pay calculations by making rolled up holiday pay for part year workers and those who work irregular hours lawful. So annual leave will accrue at a rate of 12.07% of the number of hours worked within any pay period. Also allowing small businesses with fewer than 50 employees doing TUPE transfers of any size and businesses of any size undertaking a small transfer, so of fewer than 10 employees, to consult their employees directly if there are no existing representatives in place. And finally, removing the additional working time record requirements set out in the ECJ judgment in CCO versus Deutsche Bank, which had held that working hours and rest records must be kept for almost all members of workforce, even if they worked regular hours.
Okay, so that sounds helpful to employers actually. So were there any other changes to holiday pay that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, so finally, it's really important to also be aware of the Agnew judgment. We've discussed this case in some detail on a previous podcast, so if anyone needs any further information, please do give that one a listen. But this ruled that and it departed from the ETA's decision in Bear versus Scotland. And the Supreme Court held here that a gap of 3 months or a lawful payment does not necessarily break a series of unlawful deductions from wages. So this resulted in an increase of employers' claims to backdated holiday pay from 300,000 to 30 million in this specific case. So a really important thing for employers to be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. That's got a huge impact potentially, hasn't it? Okay, so what else is there for us to watch out for in 2024?
So yeah, as you said, already in 2024 now, so a lot of things that people need to be keeping an eye out for. Most notably, we've pointed out that the ACAS consultation on the statutory code of practice on handling requests for a predictable working pattern will close this month in January 2024. In March 2024, UK regulators to have incorporated the 5 principles from the AI white paper, a pro-innovation approach to AI regulation, into guidance, so that's going to come into force. Spring 2024, the government's response to the consultation on the draft statutory code of practice on fire and rehire practices, and the final version of the code will be published, so a really important one to look out for there. We're also expecting in spring 2024 for the Protection from Redundancy, Pregnancy and Family Leave Act 2023, which extends priority status from those on maternity, shared parental leave or adoption leave to those who are pregnant and those who have recently returned from maternity, shared parental leave or adoption leave. A couple more here for you. The Carers Leave Act comes into force in April 2024, allowing employees caring for dependents with long-term needs to take 1 week of unpaid carers leave per year. And finally, don't forget that the new national minimum wage will come into force from the 1st of April 2024. So that increases the hourly rate to £11.44 per hour, and the age threshold lowered to 21 instead of 2023 instead of 23.
Wow, so there is an awful lot going on in 2024 already by the sounds of it. So for everybody listening, please keep an ear out for other important employment law updates by subscribing to our podcast channel, Employment Law Insights. But for now, if you do need any assistance with either anything mentioned here or anything else employment law related, then please contact myself by email at rebecca.kearney@waitmans.com. And thank you very much, Alice, for providing us with the updates to watch out for the year.
No, thank you for having me, Rebecca.
Brilliant. So finally, thank you everybody for listening and a happy new year.